Yo, we're back. I guess we should start with I'm Fauzi. I'm not in Australia. This is
Nick, and I'm
and
just in a polo.
and, uh, and look, we got some. We've been doing some tips, I guess, in regards to fantasy world this season and fantasy owners that may be tuning into what we were talking about. We just had a bit of a laugh off air because apparently no one wants to trade with me anymore. But I think I'm a lovely guy to trade with because I think the biggest note that I like to say is that you want to stay positive. And today's section is obviously dealing with injured players and some suggestions on how to trade injured players. Maybe there's two sides to this, right? There's obviously how to trade an injured player because you have one, and how to acquire one if you're trying to chase them, right? So there's two sides to this. Because guess what? It's always like when you're buying and selling, right? You have two different agendas, right? As far as I'm concerned, when you're selling something, you want to get the best price for it, right? That's as a seller. And a buyer, you're looking for the best deal possible. Yeah, and then it's meeting in the middle here. So look, maybe I'm going to start with firstly the fact that if you have an injured player and you're hoping to improve your roster, you can definitely trade them. And I think one of the
Yeah,
best positive parts of an injured player is the uncertainty. Yeah. Okay. Just like talked about, I don't know if we did this on air, but I talked about I swung for LaMelo Ball before the season started because I hyped out that maybe he'll only play 20 games. And guess what? He might still play 20 games. I don't know. Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay. But I hyped that up. And that was part of the selling process from my perspective. I wanted to land him that I hyped it up that maybe he'll only play a handful of games and therefore that would be a great trade for you. Okay. Maybe you could have hyped it much more that Chet Holmgren was going to hurt his freaking hip. I don't know. But, I would have never bought it. But that's the point. So I guess with an injured player right now, for example, we're talking about Banchero a little bit. He's averaging nearly 30 points a game, balling out right now, but he's injured. Now, I guess this is the part as an owner, you have to make some decisions, right? I think this is the part where will he come back that sort of player? Are you selling high now, on him because he's going to come back, maybe he'll regress back to 25 points and maybe his percentages will drop and just doesn't do much as he did with this really hot start. But because you had that hot start, if you're willing to let him go now, I think that's the part you really just put on the headlines, man. Yeah, this guy can drop 30, he's balling out, it's crazy. The Magic are going to be behind probably a few games now because he's missed. They got to get going, they got to give him minutes. Yeah, you just spin it in the most positive way. Yeah, maybe that's the thing, right? Stay positive. Yeah, spin it in a positive way.
sorry, just choking on over this.
So you want to
No,
talk?
look,
I swear this week I said
no, look.
about four
I
people.
would
You want to
say,
trade?
I would say you're wrong about the positivity. I actually just think you need to come across as informed. So I think that's where you do have success, is that you will say stuff and you feel confident when you say it. So when we talk about Paolo Banchero, you have a choice. You could tell yourself and be like, like I think he's going to come back in like he's not going to come back till Christmas, and when he does come back, he's going to need a couple of weeks to get going. That is a healthy dialogue to have as an owner to yourself. But if you go and talk to other general managers about that, and that you're trying to like say like salvage it or hedge a bet or something, or be honest in your transaction, then the other owner is going to look at that and be like, well, I'm not going to give you Steph Curry or Kevin Durant or Jason Tatum for a player like that because I know what I'm getting currently and you don't seem to contend on that. There is a perception that when someone trades a player in fantasy that they're selling low, right? It's not always the case. In fact, good owners would sell high. So Paolo can be sold high because there's a couple of things working in his favor. He's young, he's in his third season, and he was supposed to have an uptick, which you already saw a small sample size. Now, why would the Magic make him sit out all this time? Well, perhaps sometimes when you're a star player, you get extra rest because he's a $200 million asset that the franchise doesn't want to jeopardize by forcing him to come back this early in the season. So there's a lot of things that work in his favor for a return and a productive one. But what are you going to trade for? Because you probably won't get superstar for superstar, but you need to trade for needs. So we are 3 weeks into fantasy now, so you should have an idea of what you've won. If you've already got another star player on your team, or even two, depending on the size of your league, then you can probably afford to lose a star player for some specialists, right? Whether it be a 3 point maker like Buddy Hield, or maybe a steals expert like Dyson Daniels. But you want to get two of those type of players. You want to get two like top 10 category specific guys for a star player like this. But when you trade with other people for injured players, you need to understand that even though they might be in your injury reserve, you need to activate them. This is just an admin thing. It's not fun at all. It's just an admin thing. if you have only one injured player on your roster and you're ready to trade them, you will actually have to drop one of your other players to facilitate that action. So sometimes just leaving them in your injury reserve is the safest choice. And it's not until you get a second injured player that then you can start to factor in those kind of trades. So, 3 weeks into the season, if you're going to lose the next 4 weeks because you don't have Paolo Banchero, I hate to break it to you, you probably have other issues in your team because one player alone should not be winning and losing your entire week. And if you are losing week to week without Paolo Banchero, then that's probably the other like big ticket item of maybe I do need to trade Paolo because I'm not going to win it with him anyway.
I think look, I like what you're suggesting, man. I think my real how I would approach it, and look, we obviously have different styles, right? And that's fine. Every owner definitely has a different style to how they want to approach these sort of situations. But I think when a player is injured, whether you're trying to acquire them or you're trying to, obviously sell, trade them, obviously, to strengthen your team in that sort of sense, no doubt, that the uncertainty is a positive aspect that you really focus on to spin that works in your way. Because that's the whole idea, right? You're trying to spin it in your way to be able to get that trade to work for you. And I guess that's when whether the other owner sort of buys that sort of situation or not, that's totally up to them. Obviously, I felt confident that LaMelo Ball will probably hopefully give me say 60 games, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, and injuries are a funny thing, right? Because and it's probably a good hypothetical. What would you rather? Would you have an all NBA MVP candidate up until the last 4 weeks of the season, or would you want a player that only plays 3 out of 4 games per week? What would you prefer?
Well, just write in our group chat. The best ability is availability, and
Yeah, so that's
and
and that's the
and
thing. So we look at Paolo, and do we expect Paolo to miss more time after this injury? Well, again, as I said to you, it's early in the season that the Magic can give away games at this point and trial some other stuff. When he comes back, they'll make an assessment. But I already think they've made an assessment. They're giving him extra recovery time. That's an NBA thing. I know that medical reports will say, 4 to 6 weeks. It usually means 6 to 8 because they err on the side of caution. You're talking about $1 million assets that, you know, we don't know what Orlando had this season. They played 4 games or 5 games with him, and they looked good, but it's too early to say, oh, we've got to like inject him full of everything to get him back on the court. It's just not worth it at this point. So he might be fine for the rest of the season once he comes back, and they're going to give him that extra rest.
I love you leaning towards your conspiracy theories now already, but I guess to sort of sum it up, and I think we're gonna start doing a new mailbag section here. I guess if anyone's got any trades they're sort of thinking out there, we'd love to hear them, or you've sort of pulled off as well. Maybe biggest player you fleeced in your league, if not this season, a previous year maybe. It's always fun. I think they check some of these trades, man. I don't know if you remember, man. I told you I traded actually quite a while ago now, actually, that I traded CP3 in his prime for John Wall, and then John Wall went down.
Yep.
Just like I traded Lamelo last year for Lamelo, and I gave up Ant Edwards. So I know all about when it doesn't go your way, man. I know all about when it doesn't go your way. But sometimes you just got to go. You just got to deal with it and bounce back and just make another trade, man.